Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and very good morning everyone. Welcome to our third brown bag webinar series, and thanks to all of you that are here this morning, and perhaps this session generates a fruitful discussion, inshallah. I'm Aniza Isha, a lecturer from Development Studies Department, Faculty of Economic and Administrations. Will moderate these sessions, and the speaker with me this morning is my colleague, Dr. Muhammad Mehedi Masud. How are you, Doctor?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Okay, Alhamdulillah, thank you. Okay, before we begin, allow me to give a short description about the Ungku Aziz Center for Development Studies. The Royal Professor Ungku Aziz Chair was established at the Faculty of Economics and Administration, University Malaya, back in November 2006 to honor the contributions of Professor Ungku Aziz in the field of education and economic development, particularly in rural development and poverty. Previously, the center was known as Center for Poverty and Development Studies, CPDS. Since 2016, the center has undertaken steps to develop and further expand by engaging in more dynamic activities and embark in more interdisciplinary fields of research. And among other activities in the center is the Ungku Aziz Brown Bag Webinar Series 2020, as what we have this morning. So the purpose of this webinar is to provide a platform for the Ungku Aziz research participant, research recipient grant to share their works and ideas on their research findings and development issues that are relevant to the center's aim and objective. And for the two-day webinar sessions, the themes falls under Research Pillar 2 on Poverty and Sustainable Development that aims to understand and search for compatible frameworks between development targets such as growth, poverty eradications, the provisions of basic needs, employment creation, equity and distributions, while sustaining the environment for future generations, and to design appropriate policy measures for social transformations and managing sustainability. The center has developed 10 research pillars to anchor research directions. Kindly visit UAC websites at unkuazizcenter.um.edu.my for further information. So without further ado, let me introduce our in-house speaker for these sessions, Dr. Muhammad Mehedi Masud, Senior Lecturer, the Department of Development Studies, Faculty of Economics and Administration, University Malaya. Allow me to read his biography, Doctor. He is currently a Senior Lecturer of the JPP Development. He has published a book by Palgrave Macmillan in 2019, book chapters and over 50 scientific articles in internationally peer-reviewed journals in the field of sustainable development. Currently, he is involved with several research projects such as Fundamental Research Grant, FRGS, Long-Term Research Grant, and faculty projects. His research interests covers sustainable developments, development economics, environmental impact assessment, ecotourism developments, climate change adaptation and mitigation, and furthermore. He has received several awards such as the Academic Excellence Awards in 2014 and 2015, based or due to the most high impact publications, and Bangladeshi Student Night Awards 2016 from the University Malaya. He's an associate editor of the Journal of Institution and Economics, our in-house journal, and editorial board members for Ecofeminism and Climate Change and International Journal of Environment and Sustainable Development. Following is the abstract of the talk. Okay. Marine protected areas, MPA, in Malaysia are greatly constrained by a host of problems and challenges such as ineffective management, poor institutional capacity, limited enforcement, absence absence of awareness, and poor socio-economic status, which influence the conservation of marine resources. Environmental degradation is another issue, including anthropogenic activities, overexploitations of marine resources, water quality deteriorations, massive waste generations, and climate change. These are the main impediments to the sustainable economic growth, social development, and conservation of natural resources. This study highlights the major hurdles to sustainable community development within MPAs in Malaysia. It would help policymakers resolve the problem associated with marine park management and take appropriate steps to preserve, conserve, and protect marine resources for sustainable community development. Before we begin, Dr. Mehedi, please be informed that you have about 45 minutes for the presentation, and then we will open for Q&A sessions for about 25 minutes after your presentation. So, Dr. Mehedi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Anija. Can you see my slide?
Yes, we can.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Ungku Aziz Center for Development Studies for giving the opportunity to talk about conservation of marine resources and sustainable coastal community development in Malaysia. This is the outline of the presentation. Let me share the motivation of the study. So this is a timely and emerging issue related to the conservation and sustainable use of marine resources and the sustainable development of coastal community. As we know that to stimulate the conservation and sustainable use of marine resources, global policymakers have introduced Sustainable Development Goal 14, which is life below water. Then Convention on Biological Diversity that focuses on increasing the current size of global marine protected areas. This is also known as Aichi targets. So they have set targets to increase the size of global marine protected areas to 10% by 2020 and at least 30% by 2030 to accomplish Sustainable Development Goal 14. Malaysian National Policy on the Environment as well as 11th Malaysian Plan have given importance on sustainable use of natural resources and sustainable coastal community development to eradicate pockets of poverty. Despite Malaysia's tremendous economic growth and remarkable achievement in poverty reduction for the nation, pockets of poverty still remain in certain regions like marine protected areas. Marine protected areas make a remarkable contribution to the protection of marine communities by providing sustainable livelihoods, deriving financial benefits from the development of fisheries and tourism, as well as by restoring ocean productivity and preventing further environmental degradation. That's why these areas have been considered as the cornerstone of a blue economy due to their substantial economic, social, and environmental contribution. However, marine protected areas across the world are severely hampered by a multitude of issues and challenges, such as inefficient management, poor socioeconomic conditions, environmental degradation due to human activities, overexploitation of natural resources, degradation of water quality, massive waste production, and climate change. So these are the main obstacles to economic, social, and environmental sustainability. So we have reviewed literature comprehensively. So literature review tells us that across the world, marine protected areas are facing multitude issues and challenges. So some of them are common challenges regardless of country context, while some differ due to country context. So in this respect, we found that there is room for further study in Malaysian context. So we come out with some research objectives. First one, to explore the underlying drivers of sustainable management of natural resources and sustainable coastal community development. Secondly, to examine how development components such as economic, social, cultural, political, technological, and ecological development affect the sustainable use of natural resources within marine protected areas. And thirdly, to recommend an integrated management policy framework for conservation and sustainable community development, which is essential for effective management of marine protected areas. Before sharing an overview of marine protected areas, let me define what is marine protected areas. So there are many definitions of marine protected areas. I have just picked up two of them. As Convention on Biological Diversity define a geographically defined area which is designated or regulated and managed to achieve specific conservation objectives. Another definition is given by Department of Marine Park, Malaysia. Marine Park is a protected area of the sea that is zone 2 nautical miles measured from the low tide point. It is surrounded by islands that are gazetted and zoned as coral reefs sanctuary. So you can look at this map. This map shows how marine protected areas look like according to Department of Marine Park definition. Let me share an overview of global marine protected areas with a special focus on Malaysia. Currently, the total protected area is more than 27 million square kilometer with a total 14,841 marine protected areas, which cover more than 6% of entire ocean. So this figure shows the increasing trend of global marine protected areas, but it is growing at a snail pace. However, good indication is that marine protected area coverage has increased in tenfold by recent years compared to 2000. It was in 2000 it was 0.7% and 7.4% of the ocean in recent years. This table exhibits the coverage and total number of marine protected areas in the ASEAN region. So Philippines has the highest number of marine protected areas, then Indonesia, then Malaysia. Let's take a look at the coral triangle countries. Okay, so this map looks like a triangle. That's why it is called coral triangle countries. So the Coral Triangle initiatives was taken by 6 Coral Triangle countries, namely Indonesia, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, Solomon Islands, and East Timor. So they undertook joint initiatives for regional cooperation linked to the Coral Triangle initiatives on coral reefs, fisheries, and food security. So this multilateral partnership aspires to become a comprehensive, ecologically representative, social and governance network to manage marine protected areas at the sub-national level. So the aim of such mutual cooperation is to identify possible threats and challenges that may emerge while maintaining marine ecosystems. Let's talk about marine protected areas in Malaysia. There are currently total 53 marine protected areas. So 42 marine protected areas are located in peninsular Malaysia, 3 in Sarawak, 6 in Sabah, 2 proposed. Tun Mustafa Marine Park will add another 1 million hectares of protected areas. The government has also identified 5 marine protected area centers of the coast of Kedah, Terengganu, Pahang, Johor, and Labuan states. So in Malaysia, the concept of marine protected areas was introduced in the 1980s to raise public awareness on declining fisheries resources and ecosystem degradation. So this was followed by the Malaysian Marine Park Gazettements in 1994, which became constitutional law in 1995 upon the review of the Fisheries Act 1963. So the main goal of marine protected areas were to protect habitats and marine resources while also serving as a management tool to promote sustainability in the fisheries sector. As we know that Malaysia is one of the top 12 megadiverse countries in the world that places great importance on the conservation and sustainable use of its rich natural heritage. So these marine protected areas have been established to address the threats to marine, coastal, and island ecosystems. So the development of marine protected areas across the world, and particularly in Malaysia, is an essential geo-ecological element, not only for biodiversity, but also for the society and the economy. So there are 4 categories of marine protected areas in Malaysia, namely marine parks, no-take zones, wildlife sanctuaries, and turtle sanctuaries. Let me share briefly literature review. For this study, we have reviewed journal articles, books, report to understand global and regional as well as local context. So in order to comprehend the regional and local context, we have segregated country-specific study with their focus in this table. So if we take a look in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, we can see that most of the study focused on socio-economic, secondly biological related, and only one study focused on governance. So it gives an indication that there is a research gap on how development components, as I mentioned earlier, economic, social, cultural, political development can affect sustainable use of natural resources and coastal community development. So let me summarize the literature review. So it is acknowledged that there is a close link between the protection of protected areas, the conservation of biodiversity, and economic development. As we know that unsustainable economic development causes environmental pollution and overexploitation of natural resources. So therefore, a proper planning is essential for the sustainable use of natural resources, as Renawati and others stated that development without proper planning hampers the sustainable use of natural resources and accelerates environmental damage. Then the number of people within marine protected area is growing rapidly due to rapid industrialization and economic growth, which has put resources in coastal areas in a precarious state, as stated by Olania and others. Though it is a complex matter to maintain a balance between environmental preservation and community development, particularly for protected areas, because poverty and conservation are linked problems. However, Gimiri states that there are great opportunities to improve the livelihood security and standard of living of local community while simultaneously preserving and enhancing natural habitats. So conservation initiatives should be designed to protect natural ecosystems and biodiversity which are essential for systems and activities that support human life. However, natural scientists, economists, and other social scientists have failed to look systematically at the interaction between human beings and the natural environment in protected areas as stated by Gemeri. Protected areas should be able to promote economic, social, and cultural improvements along with conservation, because cultural development is required for promoting native population engagement, employing cultural heritage as a way for fostering community aptitude and community spirit as stated by Sun. Then the improvement of livelihood of the people living in marine protected areas and their financial empowerment play a vital role in the protection of natural endowments and monuments of culture. So conservation of natural resources, livelihood, and cultural integration are interconnected to each other as stated by Holly. Similarly, political dimension, political mechanism that is needed to manage natural resources, especially when it comes to dealing with increasing environmental degradation and anthropogenic pressure. However, recently the people living in marine communities are being misled about socio-economic, cultural, and political impression. This has made it difficult for marine protected areas to achieve their core objectives, as the quality management of marine protected areas depends to achieve their core objectives on good governance, policies, and effective institutional structure and process. So we can observe that continued deterioration of biodiversity and the disastrous consequences of climate change and rapid development. So these have made technological tools widespread and essential part of conservation today in today's world. And because technological tools can stop illegal activities that threaten biodiversity losses and increases pollution. In addition, environmental awareness and attitudes also influence the sustainable use of natural resources. In economics, it was Baldwin, 1966, who first realized the importance of environmental awareness. So environmental sustainability is attributed as a positive dimension to grow environmental attitudes and behaviors against the issue of climate change and global warming. So this is a brief summary of our literature review. So apart from that, literatures also give a clear picture of some common challenges regardless of country context, while some differ due to country context. Let's talk about our proposed research model. We have attempted to draw a research model based on extensive review of literatures to measure the perceived economic, social, political, cultural, technological, and ecological development of marine protected marine communities. So why do we consider these development components? Because literature have considered those components as the main drivers of sustainable use of natural resources and sustainable community development. In the context of this study, we explore the community perception about these development components as well as their psychosocial development. Here, psychosocial development refers to their awareness, attitudes, and sustainable use of natural resources. So as we know that there are interactions between human beings and the natural environment in promoting economic, social, and cultural improvements along with conservation initiatives, particularly marine protected area communities mostly rely on natural resources for their sustenance. But we know that ecological development is one of the fundamental factors to ensure ecological sustainability. As Romeo 2012 stated, the economic development of a country only be efficient when it is socially inclusive and ecologically balanced. So the development and adoption of a new and sophisticated technologies will improve sustainable utilization of natural resources and ecological development, whereas political development plays a significant role in minimizing community gaps as well as economic disparity. So environmental awareness and attitudes play a vital role in influencing individuals to make appropriate decisions for environmental protection. So therefore, this study has developed this proposed research model. Let's talk about very briefly about methodology. This is our study area. We have selected 3 marine protected areas, namely Thiuman Island, Redang Island, and Tinggi Island. So 3 of them are, all of them are located in peninsular Malaysia. Then we have employed mixed methods, okay, so which combines qualitative method and quantitative method. So qualitative method, for qualitative method, we have done document analysis from Department of Marine Park, Department of Fisheries, then Maritime Institution Malaysia, then International Union for Conservation of Nature, then Worldwide Fund for Nature, from Convention on Biological Diversity, and some articles, books, as well as a Sustainable Development Index report. And finally, we have collected some information based on focus group discussion. And quantitative method, we use survey questionnaire. Our target sample size was 400. So data for this study were obtained from face-to-face interviews of direct user of marine park resources using a structured questionnaire. Okay, so our target sample size is 400, is taken from Thiuman Island, Redang Island, Tinggi Island as follows. Let me share the result of this study. Socioeconomic characteristics of the participants. Okay. As we know that one of the main attributes of human development is a community's education level. However, results reveal that 8% of the respondents do not have formal education, while only 1.7% have a university degree among marine park communities, so which is inconsistent with the literacy rate in Malaysia. The study also found a surprising result that 44% of the respondents are fall low-income groups, though Malaysia has seen much success in its fight against poverty. So this result shows that their monthly income is very low compared to other places in Malaysia. They don't have, we also found that they don't have agricultural land, they don't have water supply, they drink mountain water, but sometimes this water is not drinkable. It looks like sabun water, as they claim, okay? Then only 27% own their land at the marine protected area. Then only 17% of the respondents are involved with rubber taper, while some of them have buffalo farm in Redang Island. Most of the respondents think that infrastructure such as roads, transportation, hospitals, clinics, schools, and grocery stores have not improved after the gazettement of marine protected areas. But their personal resources have improved, such as house, car, TV, refrigerator, boat, bicycle, etc. In terms of health status of marine park community is 80% of the respondents are in good health, while 20% are suffering from various diseases. So though 48% of the respondents have membership in various associations, but they claim that they have lack of enough support for their schooling, land grant, peer support, home care services, training, etc. Let's look at their livelihood strategies. So 28% of the respondents involved with working as a general workers, then 20% of the respondents involved with business related profession, Then 1% involved with customer services, 17% are involved with rubber taper, 1% involved with work with the private teacher, the 9% working as a government employees, and 16% involved with the tourist board operators, guide drivers, and so on. And 8% remain as a fisherman. Okay, so this is our main concern here, because a large number of respondents have changed their occupation from fishing to other professions after the establishment of marine protected areas. Because before the establishment of marine protected areas, most of the respondents were fishermen, 90%. So this means that the number of fishermen has decreased because of gazettement. Let's look at some of the challenges faced by marine park communities. In order to identify major challenges faced by marine park community, we ask respondents to rank the following issues in order of importance from 1 and so on to and so on. So where 1 is most important to them, and the next is less important to them. So we found that major challenges, they rank number 1, no multiple livelihood opportunities, particularly off season. They don't have anything to do from November to February. So you can see that number 2, the less tourists from November to February, because at that time strong waves, unexpected high tide. And third, fluctuation in the price of goods and products according to the season. So cost of living increasing rapidly, price of goods always going up, but especially from March to October because of tourism season. Okay. The next challenge they face is change of occupation. As I mentioned earlier, before establishment of marine protected area, 90% were fishermen. Now remain only 8% as a fisherman. So the change of occupation after the establishment of marine protected area from fishermen to other professions. The next challenge they face is job uncertainties according to seasonal change, because January to February they have less number of tourists because at the time strong waves and unexpected high tide, as mentioned earlier. The next one is increase solid waste generation increasing by restaurant and tourist. The next challenge is declining of marine products due to change of season, because the high tides is easy to acquire fish, but at low tide fish totally are declining. Then change of land using. The use of land in the study area also have been changed. Some forest areas have been converted into chalets or hotel motels development. A natural disaster like flood they have mentioned, and also the next one is the climate change is happening around them, such as they feel late raining, and also they feel very hot. Then the last one is there are some more, but I have mentioned here only 12. So some last one is the social crime. Okay, so as alcohol addiction is increasing due to duty-free alcohols and unethical activities increasing with tourists, a number of child labor is increasing within marine protected areas, and teenagers in marine protected areas are getting involved with some unethical activities. Okay, so these are the major challenges are faced by marine park communities. So in order to supplement our findings from Sustainable Development Index report, it shows that biodiversity is declining at moderate level in Malaysia. Then in terms of clean water is decreasing as shown by Sustainable Development Index report. So access to clean drinking water is a major issue and difficult target to achieve in most developing nations. Then the fishing indicator also reflects a decline of 3.6% from 2016 to 2018. So, but the rating remained as a moderate level. Then the Fisheries Department estimate that Malaysia losses some 980 million tons of fish, which worth RM 6 billion every year. as stated by NST. Then NST also stated that productivity per fisherman has also declined for all regions in the country. And also in this study, we have developed a research model. So in order to test our research model, before we have done some diagnosis test. Okay, now first is confirmatory factor analysis. So CFA test was used to identify whether all the construct used in the study have adequate model fitness indices. Meanwhile, it is obvious that all the factors loading score obtained by CFA range between 0.64 to 0.86, so which indicates that all the items loadings are larger than the cutoff value of 0.770 except few items. Then we have checked convergent and discriminant validity. The convergent and discriminant validity was tested through measurement model as presented. So which shows that the average variance extracted equals or exceed the cutoff value of 0.50. Then the value obtained for composite reliability estimates all the variables representing greater scores than the cutoff value of 0.70 as recommended by here. Then for discriminant validity, diagonal elements are greater than the off-diagonal elements. Therefore, the proposed construct for this study have been optimized with convergent and discriminant validity. In addition, the coefficient correlation value between two constructs is well within the suggested value of R 0.85. Let's look at the result of our hypothesis testing. So this study has examined the perceived impact of economic, social, cultural, ecological, and technological development on the sustainable use of natural resources. So the result found that perceived economic development greatly affects sustainable use of natural resources. This is because a large number of coastal communities rely on marine resources for their survival. So they involve extractive activities like overfishing and overutilization of natural resources due to lack of alternative livelihoods. This study also revealed that the conservation of sustainable natural resources is positively influenced by social development factors. It is not just economic activities that make up economic development, but also the social asset that contribute to it. So economic development is facilitated by social capital through involving the community in the development process. Some social factors like kinship networks, association membership organizations, and peer group networks, so that contribute positively to social development. Then the attitudes and conservation behavior of individual towards an ecosystem within marine protected area is greatly affected by the social development factors. Simultaneously, this study identifies that the use of marine natural resources is greatly influenced by cultural development. So cultural development, which include agricultural harvesting system, wildlife and natural resources utilization, a strong sense of belonging to the birthplace, activities which are natural resource oriented, social and customary relationships with one another in the surroundings, then aesthetic and educational values, then knowledge sharing system, and so on. So however, in recent years, social, cultural, economic, and political factors have been translated and interpreted negatively among the local people, which causes a great deal of pressure to manage marine protected areas effectively. So this study finds that the sustainable use of natural resources has a very positive relationship with ecological development. Sustainable use of natural resources management within marine protected areas, there remain much scope for developing agricultural land, farming, fishing stock, and water resources. Eventually, this study identifies that sustainable use of natural resources is ensured by some psychosocial variables such as awareness of environmental sustainability, favorable attitudes towards environmental upgradation, and so on. So it is evident that when a large number of people become very aware of the adverse impact and devastating consequences of environmental degradation, they will get themselves more involved in preserving the environment and take the required initiatives to mitigate its dangerous effects on the ecosystem. So based on these findings, we proposed a management policy framework. So in order to attain economic, social, and environmental sustainability for coastal community development, effective management is essential. So there is no alternative and integrated management framework when it comes to managing marine protected areas effectively. Therefore, we propose an integrated management policy framework based on the key components of sustainable coastal community development and conservation of natural resources within marine protected areas. So based on the findings, we can say that marine park communities are facing two important issues. Number one is conservation of marine resources. Another is poor socioeconomic conditions. So it is widely accepted that poor socioeconomic status and conservation are linked problems, as poverty affects conservation and vice versa. So this is because a large number of coastal communities rely on marine resources for their survival. So it seems that marine protected areas in Malaysia have been largely overlooked in the poverty reduction policies of the government. So in order to address these issues, we propose economic development. So economic development strategies need to be developed for the betterment of these marine park communities so that the outcomes can promote multiple livelihood pathways, can have tourism development, can have infrastructure development, entrepreneurial development programs, small scale industries, the establishment and management of cooperatives, then stability in the price of essential goods, and finally they can establish Waqf institution for economic development of marine park community. Then in order to ensure social sustainability and active social interaction, then social network and coordination are required. So cooperation and collaboration are essentials to bring economic and social benefits to individuals and the community as a whole. So social networking development and education programs, participation of community for management and support for others, then being membership in multiple organizations, then appropriate medical facilities, highest priority for community development, namely water supply, electricity, roads, hospitals, school, transportation, and grocery, and so on. So, and also need to increase family management competency for parents to handle teenagers that are facing social problems. Then for environmental conservation or environmental development, to ensure the sustainable use of natural resources, environmental issues must be considered in the management policy framework. So a successful policy framework should provide information about coordination between the respective parties and specify how natural resources should be managed and conserved. It should also offer sustainable return to the local communities for their efforts in monitoring and minimizing the hostile effects caused to their environment as a result of unwanted human activities. So therefore, the community-based ecotourism can be developed for having high environmental attention, improved control, and contribution of the local community, as well as noteworthy gains for the host community. Then, to address the management issues, as we know that marine protected areas currently face numerous challenges due to ineffective management of resources. So the common practices of centralization approach, the top-down approach, and lack of community-based approach, bottom-up approach, okay? So are the key drivers of ineffective management of marine protected areas. In particular, these issues are not addressed comprehensively in Southeast Asia. So, but the centralized management system have failed to manage coastal resources sustainably due to lack of attention to community level social issues. Then high cost needed for adequate implementation in response to changing circumstances. On the other hand, many countries have been moving towards decentralized coastal and marine resources management systems such as United States, South Africa, Tanzania, Sri Lanka, Philippines, Indonesia. However, the local community might encounter significant problems such as inefficient financial budget, lack of technical know-how, lack of capacity, skills, training, lack of law enforcement, and absence of coordination and cooperation between state and federal government. So, however, it is uncertain whether the community alone can adequately manage local resources either due to non-localized threats or lack of capacity or lack of technical know-how. Okay, so therefore, to minimize these management issues or to address these management issues, we propose collaborative management system where local community and government will work as a partnership, which is more realistic than other arrangement. Then we also consider psychosocial improvement. So psychosocial factors of the local community must be considered in an effective management planning process. So local community perception, sustainability, awareness, and caring attitudes, environmental conservation are important determinants of sustainable use of natural resources. So because psychosocial factors can affect communities' intent to engage in conservation behavior. So therefore, psychosocial factors play an important role in building an understanding and appreciation of the key factors that influence conservation. So this is our proposed recommended policy framework. So what is our expected outcome? It is hoped that this integrated management policy framework will contribute to food security, will ensure food security, and it will create multiple job opportunities. It will bring monetary and non-monetary benefits, and it will ensure equitable distribution of benefits of marine resources. Then it will ensure compatibility with local culture and environment. So this will support sustainable community development and sustainable use of natural resources within marine protected areas. Okay, let's the significance of the study. So we have developed a model for sustainable use of natural resources. So this will contribute to the existing literature. Then our proposed integrated management policy framework will contribute in managing marine protected areas effectively, locally and internationally. Then this will ultimately help to preserve, conserve, and protect marine resources, as well as to uplift the socio-economic status of the marine park community. So as we mentioned earlier, that this framework will contribute to increase food security and create multiple job opportunities, will bring benefit, monetary and non-monetary benefits to the community, and ensure conservation of natural resources. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mehedi, for it's indeed a very informative presentations on coastal community development and marine resources. We now open the, Dr. Mehedi, we're going to take Q&A questions from participants. Okay, for all of you, we now open the Q&A sessions. Participant may ask the questions live, or you may post your questions on the chatting sections, right side of your screen, and we will pick up the questions if the time permitted. Any questions? We have, Dr. Mehedi, can you see the questions? We have one question from Lim Ai Ging, one of the participants in this event. I'm intrigued with the statement MPA management is ineffective. How was MPA management effective assessment carried out by Dr. Masud? As we know, there are multiple methods of MPA management effective assessment in Malaysia. MEAT has been used to assess our marine park. The study was carried out by UUM between 2014 until 2018. Were these studies referred to by Dr. Masud? I believe he's asking about the MEAT, Doctor.
Okay.
Management Effective Assessment Tool.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Lim, for your question. Actually, our research project objective was not assess to management effectiveness, but we have found from the past studies that Malaysian marine protected areas are facing management issues, particularly ineffective top-down approach because of the strong centralist political influence on coastal and fisheries management. Because as you know, that establishment of marine protected areas was legally forced on the community, as opposed to a referendum style in other countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and Cambodia. So this issue has created the lack of coordination among the federal and state government. Okay, so marine protected areas were embedded in intersectorial deadlock where each planning agency is in conflict with each other. But there are many tools to manage the management effectiveness. So we can consider the management effectiveness. There are few dimensions, the institutional structure. Okay, but for this study, our objective was not to assess the management effectiveness. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mehedi. We have a second question from the same participant, Dr. Mehedi. Data for Malaysia MPA is outdated. It is suggested that Dr. Masud referred to the protected area master list published by KETSA 2019 to portray accurate data for Malaysia. I think this is the master list provided by our Ministry of Land, Energy and Land Resources, I think. What is your comment on this, Doctor?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Mr. Lim suggested that the MPA data that you just provide just now is outdated, and he suggested that for you to refer to the protected area master list published by KETSA in 2019, which is by the Ministry of Water, Land, Natural Resources in Malaysia.
Okay, thank you very much. I look at it, but I think still there are 53 marine protected areas in Malaysia. So out of them, 42 marine protected areas are located in peninsular Malaysia, and 3 in Sarawak, 6 in Sabah, and 2 proposed. And Tun Mustafa Park is going to announce as a protected area soon. So then it will increase the size of marine protected areas. Although it was taken long back, but there is no any other new announcement of marine protected areas yet from Malaysian government. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mehedi. Definitely we will take that into considerations. Do you want me to continue reading the questions, Doctor? Or
the next one, eh? What is the next one?
Let me help you.
Okay.
I would like to highlight that Department of Marine Park Malaysia and Department of Fisheries Malaysia carry out capacity building programs to improve livelihood of the local communities in marine park. This program has helped to alleviate economic status of local communities and reduce dependence on extractive activities in marine park. Dr. Masud should have referred to the Department of Fisheries for information on alternative livelihood programs. Any comments, Doctor?
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, they have taken some initiatives and also creating some multiple or alternative livelihoods for them, but still they are facing limited income source and no multiple livelihood opportunities. Because as you know that before establishment of marine protected areas, 90% of them were fishermen. But now there remain only 8% as a fisherman, but there were not alternative livelihoods available. Okay, so the suddenly government announced as a protected area and you are not allowed to catch fish within 2 nautical miles. So what happens to the fishermen? So in a word, what I could say that there is a lack of holistic approach, because this approach did not cover economic, social, and environmental sustainability equally. Let me give you an example, okay? Let's say the Kenya, okay? They took the initiatives for wildlife conservation, okay? So Kenya wanted to save endangered animals and make progress in achieving Sustainable Development Goal 15, which is life on land, okay? So they were successful in terms of wildlife conservation. They were able to attract rich tourists for this area, for their area, okay, for those areas. However, this expansion came at a cost, because the growing wildlife population started to encroach neighboring communities' land. Okay, so these wild animals would often invade and damage local farmland to restore the lands, and the poor farmers who had to compensate for that losses. Okay, so and also the tourism money really trickle down to these communities. Okay, so they remain as a poor, so that this gave rise to high level of poverty in this area. So similarly, if you see, in order to conserve fisheries and natural resources, Malaysian policymakers are conserving fisheries but sacrificing other 2 pillars, which is social and economic sustainability. That's why the marine park communities still remain poor compared to other places of Malaysia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mehedi. Completely agree with you. We have the plan, we have the objective, but somehow the gap in implementations are always occurred in the process. Okay.
Yeah, I think there is.
If we may take questions from Raihana Marjan, Dr. Mehedi.
Yeah, what is the question?
Okay, let me read the questions from one of our participants this morning. Miss Raihana Marjan, okay, she asked about, it would be great if you could elaborate a bit more on your methodology. Specifically, how do you collect data and what is the sampling technique you use for the survey? Your research methodology, Dr. Mehdi.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. We have collected data from 3 marine protected areas, namely Tuman Island, Redang Island, and Tingi Island. So using cluster random sampling technique. So we have clustered Tuman Island into 8 clusters because it consists of 8 villages, namely Kampong Teke, Kampong Joara, and so on. Okay, so we have divided into 8 clusters. Okay, then the Redang Island, okay, comprises 8 towns. Penang Island, Lima Island, Iko Tibu Island, okay, so and so on, okay, so we have divided into 8 clusters. And Tingi is a small island, okay, so it was considered only one cluster. So then from each cluster we selected respondents randomly. So in terms of sample size, there are many school of thoughts, okay, some say 200 is appropriate, some say 300, okay, some say 387, okay, so and so on, okay, so there are many school of thought. So but we have selected the target sample size was 400, okay, so but most important is that the sample should be representative of the population. So we think our target sample size was 400, which represent our population. I hope I answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mehedi, on the research methodology of your survey, of your research. Can you publish the question, Doctor, so I can
which
read
one?
the question?
Okay, I think this one is already answered. Why they changed the occupation? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, then. Now what is, how do you see in terms of building structure development, coastal region? Okay, this is another question here.
Okay, let me read. Is it the building structure development, Doctor?
No, the next one. The Wakaf.
Oh, you want me to read the Wakaf? It's not on my screen currently. Sorry for that. Let me find it.
Okay, let me respond to this Wakaf one. Okay,
yeah, I'm sorry, it's okay. Not appeared on my screen, Doctor.
Okay, so let me respond. The Wakaf one is, I think, is asking about how to address poverty and conservation issue using Wakaf. Okay, because I have mentioned in the framework. So yes, in order to enhance the financial status of marine park communities in terms of turning, wage, and poverty reduction, we must explore the potential of Wakaf. Okay, so some people might think that Wakaf only for religious purposes. Okay, to build mosque or to build a religious school. Actually, not like that. Apart from Wakaf land and properties, cash Wakaf can be introduced. Okay. So cash Wakaf has been identified as one of the best instruments to be utilized as a poverty reduction method because it can be directed to activities that provide employment for the poor. As we can give you an example that Malaysia's first Wakaf lodging, the Grand Puteri Hotel in Terengganu, okay, so which is based on cash Wakaf, okay, and has the capacity to create numerous employment opportunities, okay. So beside that, some marine protected areas have not been declared as tourist spots such as Tingi Island Marine Park. Okay, so the foundation of Wakaf lodging on this island will continue income for the marine park communities. Okay, and also another philanthropic Wakaf can be established within marine protected areas to support poor marine park communities by training, the library, establishing library, then exploratory research, well-being development, care of creatures, environment, and financial aid to small businesses, and also the improvement in infrastructure development. So in the case of infrastructure, the government is vast, namely park, street, the span, power, phone, water supply, then cleaning ocean shoreline, and also chalets. Okay, so for this reason can be introduced the philanthropic wakaf and also the cash wakaf. So this way the wakaf institution can address or minimize the poverty and conservation issue within the marine protected areas. So that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Doctor.
another question is.
Definitely agree with you. Wakaf always be cited as one of the tools for poverty alleviations, especially among the poor people.
Okay, can you see another question?
Yeah, it's from Marith. Am I right, Doctor? Okay, let me read the questions by one of our participants, Marith. Okay, how does community-based ecotourism contribute to conservation of natural resources and local community development?
Okay, thanks for your question. To get back to your question, we should understand clearly the main objectives of community-based ecotourism. Okay, the main principle of community-based ecotourism, because community-based ecotourism ensures economic efficiency, social values, and environmental sustainability. Okay, so community-based ecotourism also encourages participation of local community as well as the conservation of natural resources. Okay, so that means that community-based ecotourism empowers local communities in terms of economic, social development, and preserve cultural heritage, which ultimately bring benefits to the communities. Okay, so without community participation, most of the benefits go to private agencies, government agencies. That means local community left out. Okay, so if you see within marine protected areas, most of the hotels, motels, chalets within marine protected areas are operated by outsider, even foreigner. So local community are not benefited out of it. So that's why we have proposed the community-based ecotourism can be best way to solve these issues, to address, to conserve the natural resources, and also to have the sustainable development of marine park community. I hope I answer your question. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. On ecotourism context. Okay, let me read another questions by Anonymous. Thank you, Doctor, for the nice presentation. My question is, as you find the marine park communities possess poor socioeconomic status, but why? Since Malaysia has achieved remarkable success in reductions of poverty. So I believe you've been asking why is it still poor, even though there's so many efforts that we've been has been done for this poor community. Your comments, Doctor.
Thank you for your question. For instance, actually, I have mentioned earlier that they have limited income sources and also they don't have multiple livelihood opportunities. Because as you know, the problem that before establishment of marine protected areas, 90% of them were fishermen. Okay, so after establishment of marine protected areas, only 8% remain as a fisherman. So they had to change the occupation suddenly. Okay, but they don't have. At that time, they had no the alternative livelihoods, okay, opportunities. So suddenly that government announced they as a protected area and they are not allowed to catch fish within 2 nautical miles. So this make them, put them in a trouble. Okay, so in a word that we could say that government didn't consider about their economic and social development. So as I have mentioned one example earlier, that Kenya. Okay, so Kenya, they only focus only the poverty, the conservation of wildlife, but they did not focus about social issues and economic issues of the local community. And similarly, the marine when government announced the policy or announced this marine protected area, they did not consider the economic and social development of the local community. That's why they are still remain poor compared to the other parts of the Malaysia. So as we can see, despite the Malaysia's tremendous economic growth and remarkable reduction in poverty for the nation, but there are still remain pockets of poverty in certain regions like marine protected areas. So this is actually consistent with their rate of poverty rate. Okay, so currently they have 0.4%, but if you look at the marine park community, particularly, they have high rate of high level of poverty among them. I hope I answer your question.
Thank you, Doctor. So that's among reasons why the coastal community remain poor in our society. Okay, I'm sorry at first. Okay, it's not, the questions wasn't come from anonymous, it's from NJP actually, one of our participants, NJP. Sorry for that, sorry for my anxiety. So before we move on, any questions from the floor? Any of the participants would like to pose your questions before we take any other questions from chatting button, from our chatting session? Questions from the floor? Live questions from the floor. If you have any questions, you may post, you may ask live to Dr. Mehedi. While waiting, Dr. Mehedi, would you like to publish another questions?
Okay, what is this? Is there a link? Can you read out the question?
Okay, from Adibi. Okay, we have questions from Adibi. Is there a link between the pressure on fishery resources and the reductions of employment as fishermen? 8%.
No, it's not the pressure, actually, because of the announcement of marine protected areas. Okay, once government announced as a marine protected area, so the fishermen are not allowed to catch fish within 2 nautical miles. So maybe some of them are not, because they are allowed to catch fish into deep sea. Okay, so some of them maybe don't have the equipment, the marine vehicles to catch fish into deep sea, and they had to change their occupation. Okay, so it's still 8% remain. But if you look at the fisheries production is declining, is right, but is not because of that reason they had to change the occupation. Is because of the announcement of marine protected area. Thank you.
Because of announcement. Okay, thank you, Doctor. Maybe I'll pose one question for you, Doctor.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so as a researcher, I think among the ultimate goals of doing the research is for policy recommendations or informations for the institution. In this context, based on your research, how is your study, your research is beneficial for the policymaker, especially in Malaysia? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, so we think the findings of this study will be very important for policymakers because of several reasons. For example, the findings of this study will alert policymakers, okay, because findings are contradictory with government's target to be developed nation by 2020 or 2050, okay, the new target, okay. So it is noticed that government has achieved significant success against fighting poverty in Malaysia. However, what happened to marine protected communities? their income level is very low, education level is unfortunate, poor economic and social infrastructure development, and destruction of ecosystem. So it seems that marine park community is still out of poverty reduction policy. So these are the main impediment for the development. So this study will help government or policymakers to take further steps to focus those factors left them behind to develop socio-economic status and conserve natural resources. So we should take note that achieving high economic growth alone does not guarantee decent life of society if there remain pockets of poverty. So I hope I answer your, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mehedi. Any other questions from the floor? We still have time, about 10 minutes before we ended the session. Live questions first before we go to the chatting sections. Next questions, maybe Dr. Mehedi. You want to answer next questions? Okay, great. We have one more questions from Mr. Lim Aigate. Okay. He said that I would like to highlight that the communities change their occupations because ecotourism create higher income for local communities compared to fishing activities. Your comment on this, Doctor?
Yeah. So is ecotourism, community-based ecotourism is not established yet. So how they have chosen this one? So I'm talking that after establishment of marine protected area, they had to change. At that time, the community-based ecotourism was not established. Okay, so it's not true that because of that reason, because of ecotourism development, they have changed their occupation. Okay, thank you. Then I think this one is I already answered. There is another question. It's already the same question.
Yeah, from NGP. Yeah, we did. You did answer that, Doctor.
Okay, this Habu approach Jilani.
Okay, let me read questions from Jillian Uy. Have you approached the state government agencies and the Department of Fisheries with your findings? What has been their response? Have you I think you have published the research, right, Doctor?
Yeah, research is already published, but we didn't communicate with them. So if they are interested, they can, you know, then we can communicate with them. We can present our findings to them. Thank you.
So in other words, it's not yet. The
Not yet, yeah.
meeting hasn't been done yet. Okay. I think we're going to take one last questions before we ended the sessions.
I think this is actually okay. Can you see this one?
Okay, I'll read one final questions. I'll read the final questions from Mr. Afendiya from Reef Ecologies Institute of Oceans and Earth Sciences, University of Malaya. Okay, he said, nice study by your team. A few questions from me. First, did the biological data include the yearly reports by Reef Check Malaysia? Second, how was the fisheries data taken as the MPAs are all no-take zones? Doctor? So there's two questions.
Not really. We didn't take data from the fisheries. Okay, actually we have taken data from the community. Okay, we have measured the community perception. How do they perceive about their economic, social, cultural, technological development? Okay, and also we measure their awareness, sustainability awareness and attitudes or caring attitudes towards the conservation of natural resources, because those are the development components. So how those components affect their sustainable use of natural resources as well as their sustainable development. Okay, so thank you. I think. Okay, this is another question, is anonymous. Merinton, can you read out? I cannot see.
Sure. Okay, Doctor. So, question by anonymous. Okay, the community in the MPA not poor. Are you sure the community poor if they are not doing business in MPAs?
Yeah, I'm sure, because they possess poor socio-economic status, even because you know the tourism season. Okay, they have peak season and off season. Okay, so from February to October. Okay, so rough season they are not allowed to. You know, there is less number of tourists. Those islands do not allow visitors. Okay, so at that time they do not have the alternative livelihood opportunities. Okay, so they are involved with only one profession. Okay, and most of them, let's say the 6 month or 7 month, they have a job, but the rest of the years they don't have nothing to do. So so they have they have some businesses, because they had to change their occupation suddenly, you know, so now they don't have the choice available. Okay, they had to open some businesses related to tourism, and this is considered a tourism sport. Okay, so they open up their business. Okay, tourism related business, but they cannot continue this business the entire year. Okay, throughout the year, because few months there is no tourist at all. Okay, I think February to October. Okay, so that's why they remain still poor, you know. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Doctor, that's among the reasons why they are remain poor. Seasonal income, business and employment is one of them, and they are facing very great limited resources in the coastal area. So that's, I believe that's among the reasons why they remain poor in that particular area. Okay. Can we stop taking questions, Doctor, or you want to continue one more if you want, or I just conclude the sessions for you? One more, maybe. Yeah.
I think this is. Okay, can you? Yeah, can you see the question?
No, I can't, Doctor. The last questions from Afendi, Mr. Afendi.
Yeah. So actually,
it's not on my screen. It wasn't on my screen, Doctor.
Okay, I cannot see also. Anyway, so I think we have collected from data from 3 islands. Okay, Tuman Islands and Redang Islands and Tingi Islands. Okay, so we have clustered. Okay, so let's say Tuman Island, we have clustered into 8 based on the 8 villages over there, and also the Redang Island we have clustered into 8 because of their 8 town. And Tingi is with less number of population, and we consider as a small island because they have the less number of population. But in terms of size, I'm not saying about in terms of size. I think someone has raised this question. They think the island is not small, but in terms of population, they are a less number of population. Okay, so we have selected and we have collected from data from those 3 islands. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mehedi. Okay, participant, we are come to the end of the session. So thank you, Dr. Mehedi. Thanks again to you for a very interesting presentations on our marine coastal sustainability issues. I believe it's very informative, important, and is timely and in manner. Thus, let me wrap these sessions. The first part of his presentation was inform us with the determinants or factor of natural resources and coastal community development sustainability. The second section was exploring on how these factors or determinants, for example, social, ecological developments, cultures, and so forth, affects their sustainability process, particularly of the 3 communities, Tioman Island community, Redang Island community, and Pulau Tinggi community. I believe he highlight 2 issues in his presentation, which is the state of conservation of marine resources issues. Second is the poor socio-economic development of coastal community development, and he proposed 5 intercorrelated factors via his integrated management policy frameworks that discuss on these 5 dimensions, which is economics, that include work-off, tourism development, and so forth. Okay, economics, one of the dimensions. Social, second is social, third is the environment, fourth is the management, and fifth will be psychosocial factors. And finally, I think that is the most important of the gist of the presentation, which is the sustainability integrated management policy framework that perhaps it can be proposed to the government. Alhamdulillah that we reached to the end of the sessions. On behalf of the Ungku Aziz Center, I would like to express highly thanks to Dr. Mehedi for his presentations. Thank you,
Thank you, Dr. Aniza. Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah, thank you. And highly appreciations to all of our participants today that spending your time for this event. Hope you will meet again in the next webinar series that proposed on the 19th November 2020, 10 a.m. And we have again a in-house speaker by Dr. Hassanul Bana, and will be moderated by our own Professor Dr. Edmund Terence Gomez. With that, thank you all. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, and bye-bye.
Thank you all.